Statement, Minister Stephen Morgan.
With permission, Mr Speaker, I will now make a statement to update this House about free school meals for children. This is a government that puts children first. They are the centre of the change that we want to see, because what we do for our children, we do for our country. So if we want to break the unfair link that runs between background and success, if we want to deliver opportunity to every home, if we want to shape a fairer society, it's got to start with our children. It's got to start with the fundamentals, making sure that every family has a stable, loving home where no child lacks food or warmth. That simple dignity should be the uncontroversial birthright of every child as they grow up in a civilised society. Mr Speaker, after 14 long years, that dignity was not universal, nor that birthright uncontroversial. When this government won the trust of the British people, which members opposite forfeited last July, the legacy of their shameful record in power was a record number of children growing up in poverty. 4.5 million children robbed of opportunity and hope, of life chances and possibilities. Child poverty is a scar on our society. It's a mark of the failure of members opposite to grow the economy and spread success to working people, to deliver for the next generation the ordinary hope that tomorrow will be better than today. The last government did not see the growing number of families in deep poverty as a failure to be addressed. No, but let me be very clear. The growing numbers on free school meals under the last government were an index of failure, not a story of success. This government is determined to turn the picture round, tackling child poverty and spreading growth and opportunity to every family in every part of our country. And that is why today I'm announcing the biggest expansion of free school meal eligibility in England in a generation, because we can and we must end the scourge of child poverty. Mr Speaker, today we are setting out that we will give every child whose family is in receipt of universal credit the entitlement of free school meals. That means not simply meals in mouths, but crucially, money back in the pockets of parents and families on an unprecedented scale. Mr Speaker, this is a historic change for children and for families. 100,000 children lifted out of poverty. That is a mark of a government that is serious about backing parents and tackling child poverty. The mark of a government with a plan for change. The mark of a government, Mr Speaker, with the ideas, investment and determination to see it through. And none of that. On that note, this government's Child Poverty Task Force, which my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State, co-chairs, the Work and Pensions Secretary, is forging ahead. We've listened to parents. We've listened to charities. We've listened to people with lived experience. And now we're acting, bringing the change that children and families deserve. And in the months and years to come, the change will be shaped by the Child Poverty Strategy, which we'll publish later this year. Mr Speaker, this is an intervention that backs parents as well as children. Our free school meals expansion will put up to £495 back in parents' pockets every year. And for them, that means more freedom in how they support their families, more choice in how they care for their children, more opportunities to get on and live a good life. Because our expansion of free school meals isn't just about the here and now. It's about investment in our children's futures. And it sets them free from the worries and strains of growing up in poverty, free to learn and play and do their very best in school. So today's announcement isn't only anti-poverty, it's pro-learning. And I know members across the House will agree with me when I say that those two cores shine brightest when they shine together. That's what the evidence tells us. Because these meals need to be healthy. The school food standards haven't been revised since 2014, but this government is acting quickly to put that right. And that is why, Mr Speaker, I'm pleased to announce today that we are now working with experts from across the sector to revise those standards. We're supporting schools with the latest nutritional guidance because the benefits for children of getting a decent, healthy meal at school are huge. Their attendance, higher. Their focus, sharper. Their behaviour, better. Their grades, stronger. Their futures, brighter. And that chance to succeed should be open to all. That's the sort of society that I want to live in and this government wants to build. But the kind of change our children need isn't the work of a single day or a single policy, even one as important as this. And that's why today's announcement is part of our wider approach and moral mission, the child poverty strategy, the opportunity mission, this government's plan for change. We've already begun rolling out school-based nurseries and 30 hours of government-funded childcare, saving parents up to £7,500 a year. Children are already eating, playing and learning together as part of our free breakfast clubs, which reach 750 early adopter schools, saving parents another £450 a year. And we're cutting the cost of school uniforms for 4.2 million children, saving some parents £50 in their back-to-school shop. And on top of that, we're recruiting more teachers, driving high and rising standards in our schools, reforming children's social care, boosting the early years pupil premium, and so much more. Mr. Speaker, growing up in Fratton, I saw firsthand the devastating impact poverty can have on a child in Portsmouth. Friends coming to school hungry, not ready to learn. And that's why I'm proud to stand here today as we offer a helping hand for every child to ensure every child, whatever their background or wherever they come from, achieves and thrives. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we're delivering the change parents need and children deserve, the change that will break that unfair link between background and success once and for all. And that means doing everything in our power to end child poverty. Because today we say enough is enough. Today we begin to turn the tide. Today, Mr. Speaker, the fight back that began in July last year kicks up a gear. We are acting to secure a brighter future for our children and for our country too. I commend this statement to the House.
Can the Minister Neil O'Brien?
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Minister for advance sight of the statement. Mr. Speaker, the truth is that the families benefiting from today's announcement are the very ones who are paying for it, because the same group of people are the ones who are hit hardest by Labour's national insurance increase. Labour promised not to increase national insurance, but they broke that promise. And now someone earning just £13,000 a year will be taking home £500 less as a result of that tax increase. Someone on just £9,000 a year, the exact sort of people who are supposed to benefit from this, are losing 5% of their income. Now, the government wants to talk about the impact of poverty on the money they are giving today, but they don't want to talk about the impact on poverty of the much larger sum of money that they are taking away. In fact, disgracefully, they haven't done any distributional analysis of the £25 billion that they are taking away, particularly targeted on low-income households. So will the Minister today finally say how many households is that pushing into poverty? Will he finally admit that figure? Now, while free school meals are obviously welcome, the things that are being cut to pay for it are much less welcome. For example, the government broke its promise to fully fund the national insurance increase for schools. Some schools 35% shortchanged. They broke their promise to fully fund the pay award. And as a result, according to the Institute for Fiscal Studies, that leaves a £400 million funding hole for our schools. Under the last government, although there was an increase in achievement across the board, the biggest increase was in the lower half of the income distribution. That is much harder to do when you've taken £400 million out of our schools. And what else is being done to balance out the costs? In schools, we already know that the government have cut support for maths, science, physics, Latin, computing and cadets and got rid of the successful behaviour hubs. We know that nurseries, which the Minister talked about, are saying they are on the brink because of the national insurance increase. In fact, the Early Years Alliance say the situation is, quote, catastrophic. We know that DfE recently announced a 10% real terms cut to university teaching grants, and they abolished 90% of higher apprenticeships, something which, funnily enough, they announced during recess, Mr. Speaker. Funny that. Now the education press are saying that the next cost-saving measure to pay for announcements like this will be to abolish EHCPs for everything other than special schools. Will the Minister today rule that out? And if he doesn't rule it out, the whole House will hear and we will know exactly what is going to happen next. And now, turning to the numbers, Mr. Speaker, what is the real net effect of all this? Transitional protections were established in 2018 to ensure that pupils who gained FSM would not lose it while UC was being rolled out. And that has roughly doubled the proportion of pupils who are eligible from 13.6% to 25.7%. The DfE has announced as part of this, though, that those protections will now end in September 2026 when this new policy comes in. So will the Minister say how much will the end of those transitional protections reduce the number of children who are eligible for FSM? Am I right in thinking that it is 1.2 million? Will the Minister agree, he's looking away, to publish a figure finally? How many children who've been on transitional protection will lose their free school meals when they change phases of education? Will the Minister finally admit the figure? And there is another sting in the tail today, Mr. Speaker, another sting, because school budgets are going to be hit. That's how this is being paid for. And that is because FSM, at the moment, is the gateway to pupil premium funding. The pupil premium, a great achievement of the coalition government between the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives. That means £1,480 per pupil in primary, a bit over 1,000 in secondary schools. And as a result of this decision, schools are going to lose that. 1.2 million pupils on transitional protection, currently bringing with them about 1,200 each. That is £1.5 billion currently going to our schools in pupil premium funding that they are going to lose. But will it be replaced by this announcement? No, because today the government have broken the link for the first time between FSM eligibility and pupil premium funding. So on the one side of the ledger, 1.5 billion lost. On the other side of the ledger, you're not getting it back. I wondered where the money was all coming from, and now, of course, we know. So I asked the Minister, will you spit it out? How much is that going to cost schools, and how much is it saving the DfE? And on smaller points, can I confirm that the government will apply the same to holiday activities and food, and that will also not trigger an increase in that funding either? And is the same also true of homeschool transport? How is this all being paid for? I think we need a little bit more detail. Mr. Speaker, we've become rather cautious about positive-sounding announcements from this government on this side of the House. The other day, for example, ministers were here and they announced that they were going to continue the Adoption and Special Guardianship Fund. But it slipped their mind, Mr. Speaker, to mention the fact that it was being cut by 40%. It must have just slipped their mind, Mr. Speaker. So we like to know the detail when we get positive announcements. So I end by asking some questions of fact. Will you agree to publish how many children are currently on transitional protection and how much the end of that protection will reduce entitlement to free school meals? Will the Minister agree to publish how much schools will lose overall on the pupil premium as a result of breaking the link between FSM and the pupil premium? And just to ask again, because the whole House will hear the answer, will the Minister rule out abolishing EHCPs outside special schools? Yes or no?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I cannot believe I did not hear the opposition spokesperson actually just welcome our announcement today. I mean, it is a shame that when their party was in government, tackling child poverty was not considered a priority. I mean, I kind of feel sorry for the spokesperson who claims to care about education and his only policy is to give private schools a tax break. I mean, indeed, on their watch, it grew, child poverty grew to record highs, and they wore increasingly numbers of child poverty as a badge of honour. And that, frankly, is shameful. This is an increase to free school meals, is fully funded, and this is possible thanks to the difficult decisions that this government and the Chancellor has had to take to get the economy growing and put public finances back on a stable footing. And I'm excited to hear the Chancellor set out more details next week. Now, this, of course, is despite the mess we inherited from the party opposite. Why hasn't he taken the opportunity today to say sorry to the shameful record of his government on child poverty? He has nothing to say on education for our country. Unlike them, we will not sit by and watch more children fall into poverty. Unlike them, we aren't offering a tax break for private schools. We are delivering positive change for our country. We are giving children back the opportunity to achieve and thrive. And with this announcement today, we're ensuring that every child, no matter what their background, gets the best start in life.
Order. Select Committee Chair Helen Yates.
Madam Deputy Speaker, can I warmly welcome the expansion of the free school meals entitlement today. It is an evidence-based approach which many of us have campaigned for for a long time, which will help to close the disadvantage gap in our schools, tackling child poverty, benefiting children's health and supporting children to learn. I hope the Government would agree, Madam Deputy Speaker, that every child who is eligible for this expanded entitlement should be able to receive that entitlement. Whether children get a free school meal that they are entitled to or not should not be dependent on somebody else to make an application for them through a complicated process. The Government knows which families are in receipt of universal credit. So can I ask the Minister whether he is considering auto-enrolment for this expanded entitlement, which would be an easier thing to achieve than auto-enrolment under the previous entitlement, and really it should be the case that every child is able to benefit. Can I seek the Minister's assurance today that this very positive announcement is not an indication that other measures to reduce child poverty, such as scrapping the two-child cap, have been taken off the table? And finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, as a London MP and as a former Southwark councillor who was very proud to be part of a council that introduced universal free school meals in 2010, and where we've seen the benefit of that policy, and where I'm proud that we have a mayor who is funding universal free school meals for all primary school children in London, can I ask for confirmation that London will also receive the funding for this expanded entitlement so that that can be put to the benefit to reduce child poverty in London further as well?
Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I thank my honourable friend and the member of the Select Committee Chair for her constructive comments and welcoming today's announcement. Making all children in households claiming universal credit eligible for FSM makes it obviously a significant, straightforward process for parents to know whether they are eligible, and we are supporting this by taking forward a programme of work including improvements to our own systems that will make applying for free school meals easier than it ever has been before. Our proposals, as I mentioned in my statement, are fully funded, and more broadly, obviously, we will set out more details around a number of other measures that she describes in the forthcoming child poverty strategy.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Munira Wilson.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I also thank the Minister for advance sight of his statement. I warmly welcome this announcement, which will make such a difference to the lives of children up and down this country. We know the impact that free school meals can have. A hot, healthy meal in the middle of the day helps children to learn, to concentrate and to thrive. Making sure a child doesn't go hungry in school can truly change their life. And that's why Liberal Democrats for so long have championed free school meals. That's why we've long called on successive governments to take this step. And that's why this policy was in our election manifesto last year. And even though it wasn't in Labour's, I am delighted that they are taking our idea today. It's why we, Liberal Democrats, introduced universal infant free school meals when we were in government. And it's why we, Liberal Democrats, are today sharing in the joy of the tireless campaigners and struggling families for whom this is such a victory. For far too long, far too many children in this country have gone hungry through the school day. The previous Conservative government ignored the advice of their own food czar, Henry Dimbleby, and even Michael Gove, to leave children in poverty without the meals they deserve and need. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, this can only be the start. We need to see this policy fully funded and properly implemented. We need to see auto-enrolment, as the Chair of the Select Committee has said, so that every child receives the meals they are entitled to, because thousands of eligible children currently miss out. And now we know the government are finally looking to the Liberal Democrats for policy ideas on tackling the cost of learning. Could I urge them to look again at capping the cost of branded uniform items, not the number of branded uniform items? And finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, if the government is serious about tackling the scourge of child poverty, will they finally scrap the two-child benefit cap?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I would like to thank my member for Twickenham for welcoming so positively this announcement today. She has been, like so many others in her party, a real champion on these matters. She has made clear in this place how important this policy will be for children's well-being, attainment and attendance, and I, of course, wholeheartedly agree with her. I note her call for auto-enrolment, and she will have made those points at various intervals during the committee stage of the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill, and I look forward to working with her to hear her views going forward. We will, of course, continue to improve ways of getting children registered for free school meals, as I set out earlier, and this announcement today makes that even easier for families and for schools. I also pay tribute to school food campaigners who I meet on a regular basis for helping us get to the place that we are today in terms of our announcements, and I look forward to continuing to work with her as we see the passage of the Children's Wellbeing Bill through this House, and to work constructively to improve the life chances for children and young people across our country.
Serena Brackenridge.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In July, I came from the classroom to this chamber, seeing the harm that poverty does to children, particularly from families on universal credit that weren't able to claim free school meals, probably because their parents were grafting on low-paid jobs or insecure work. Does the Minister agree with me that 500,000 more children fully entitled to a nutritious school dinner will boost school attendance and help narrow the education gap that widened under the Tories?
I thank my honourable friend for her question. She is indeed a real champion for children and young people in her constituency and in this place. As she rightly says, this is a significant expansion of food support to disadvantaged pupils in schools, reaching over 500,000 pupils, lifting 100,000 children out of poverty. And I think this really does demonstrate that we are a mission-driven government, and this is down payment on the child poverty strategy, and this is an anti-poverty and pro-learning measure that we've set out today, and I really look forward to working with her as we deliver this positive change for her constituency.
Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Many of my schools in my constituency have been unable to take up the offer of breakfast clubs because, frankly, they don't have the facilities to provide them in the first place, or for the children to be able to eat them, which is a real challenge. Can I ask the Minister one specific issue, because I'm concerned this may create a cliff edge for parents. So taking the example of a child who goes to school, his or her parents qualify for universal credit, and then later on the parents get jobs, better paid jobs, and no longer qualify for universal credit. Does that child then lose the ability to have a free school meal? Because that could create a real problem for many, many parents and a cliff edge before us. And that is, I'm sure, not the intention of the government, but we need to make clear what the position is.
The honourable member obviously sets out the current position of what's happened in the past, and obviously what we're announcing today is lifting more children out of poverty so that more children are eligible for free school meals. He makes a number of points around breakfast clubs. Obviously we're committed to rolling out breakfast clubs to every primary school in the country. I'll be delighted to meet with him to hear his particular thoughts and views on how that makes the biggest difference in his own constituency.
Emma Law.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Hungry children don't learn, so I thank the government for listening to those of us who have long campaigned for this announcement today. This government's reforms are starting to put more money into people's pockets, tackling the root causes of poverty, but these will take time to embed, time that hungry children simply do not have. My honourable friend knows that poverty is all-encompassing and extends well beyond the school day. So can he please today give the 470,000 children affected by the cruel two-child benefit cap some hope that the government is seriously considering scrapping it, and considering scrapping it very soon?
I thank my honourable friend for her question. As she knows, this government is determined to bring down child poverty, and this is a complex area that we need to get right. It's not for me to comment on particular speculation at the moment, and extensive work is ongoing on the child poverty strategy, which will be published later this year, and obviously an update in the House will be provided in due course.
Smart.
Thank you,
Very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. As a Liberal Democrat, I warmly welcome this announcement today. I've stood on a manifesto that's mentioned this in the 4 previous general elections, and it is good news. Yeah. But it is the best news if the Minister could explain more about what he means on fully funded. I refer the House to my register of interests, where I proudly report that I'm in my 19th year of being a primary school governor, and school budgets are stretched to the limit. Could the Minister explain what he means when he says fully funded? Does that mean fully funded from existing school budgets?
I thank the Honourable Member for her question and thank her for her time as a school governor, especially as we mark Volunteers Week. I know the work of school governors up and down the country is invaluable, and obviously they have a particular role in supporting the compliance of school food in schools up and down the country. We currently spend over £1.5 billion on school food annually, delivering free school meals to around 3.5 million children. We will set out further details on the funding as part of our wider child poverty strategy in due course.
Rachel Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I welcome this Labour Government's announcement to expand eligibility for free school meals to any child with a parent in receipt of universal credit. And this expanded entitlement means that nearly 8,500 children in years 3 to 11 in Luton South and South Bedfordshire will be eligible for free school meals. So can the Minister confirm that this will not only support their behaviour and attainment, but also save families up to £500 per child per year?
I thank my honourable friend for her important question. I know she's a real champion for children and young people in her constituency. She's absolutely right to set out the differences this will make in terms of cost of living for parents, and as she also suggests, it will have real benefits in terms of behaviour, attendance and attainment, as I set out in my statement earlier today.
Kirsty Blackman.
The Minister's made a big thing today about every family in every corner of our country. He's talking about things about how widespread this will be. You know, a small number of additional people in England will be able to get the additional free school meals. I'm glad that he's extended this, but it doesn't have the geographical reach that he's trying to make out. However, if he was to extend, if he was to remove the 2-child benefit cap, if he was to do that, that would have an effect on every part of these islands. That would have an effect on reducing poverty in every single place that our constituents live in. Why is this being kicked into the long grass? He's making announcements on free school meals, but the government's refusing to make announcements on the child poverty strategy that was promised in the spring.
Wasn't that a nice try, Madam Deputy Speaker? But let's be clear, we're taking urgent action in light of the scar of poverty on our society. Obviously, we've got a spending review next week, and the child poverty strategy will conclude in due course. If you listen carefully to my statement, I obviously said that we will be announcing further details on the strategy later this year.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I set up and have chaired the all-party group on school food since 2010, so I know all too well about the many benefits of free school meals, from the economics to the health benefits, and that is why I've campaigned for over 18 years to extend free school meal provision. Providing more children than ever with free, healthy, hot and nutritious meals can be truly life-changing. And that number in my constituency is going to be up to a further 5,460 children, which is very welcome indeed. So can I thank the Minister and our government, and does he agree with me that this down payment on the child poverty strategy is only the start of this government's mission to lift as many children out of poverty as possible, just as the last Labour government did?
Yeah. I thank my honourable friend for her question. I know that she's been a real champion on school food issues ever since she's been elected to this place, and had the pleasure of meeting with her recently and campaigners that she suggested that I saw on these very points. So I know that her lobbying has directly influenced our outcomes today. We're making these decisions because of tough and necessary decisions that the Chancellor has had to make. Obviously, it's a step in the right direction, and obviously we set out more detail on the child poverty in due course.
Dr. Caroline Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm delighted that more children will have the meals at lunchtime at school. I think it's great for pupils to be able to get well fed, and as a paediatrician I see the value of that. But I did want to ask about transitional protection and money. The transitional protection will take 1.2 million children out of this category. Some of them may go back into it with the UC, but the robbing of the money from people premiums will leave schools £1.5 billion short. So how does the Minister intend to replace that £1.5 billion worth of money for schools so that children can get a good education as well as the food?
I thank the Honourable Member for her question. I think I finally heard someone actually delighted by the announcement that we've made today. So finally we've heard that in today's statement. On transitional protections, it's worth saying that the Department will expand free school meal eligibility from September 2026 so that all households in receipt of universal credit can benefit from nutritious free lunch. As a temporary measure, we will extend transitional protections. This means that households on universal credit and meeting the current earned income threshold of £7,400 will keep their free school meals regardless of any change in circumstances. Following expansion of eligibility from September next year is our intention to end all protections.
Jogi.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Tackling poverty and inequality is in our DNA, and it's why many of us on this side are here. And I welcome this announcement, and I know that more than 3,000 children and their families in Newcastle Lime Hill benefit will welcome it too. It's good for health, good for educational attainment, and importantly for the futures of our young people. And I very much agree with the point on auto-enrolment made by the Chair of the Select Committee. And with that in mind, can I please ask the Minister to speak to his officials to find some time to come and see the benefits of our commitment to tackling child poverty in Newcastle Lime for himself when this announcement is rolled out next year?
I thank my friend for his question. I'm absolutely keen to make sure we learn from the best in local government, especially as we have been in terms of auto-enrolment activity. As I mentioned earlier, what we are doing and what we're announcing today will make the whole process of applying for free school meals much simpler and easier for parents, but we'll certainly take on board his comments. I'm very happy to meet with him to discuss these issues further.
After this, we have 2 Select Committee statements and 2 backbench business debates. And if colleagues don't keep their questions short, they're just denying other colleagues opportunity to speak. Claire Young.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Unfortunately, vulnerable children, of course, spend many weeks each year not in school during the holidays. And in my own Lib Dem Labour Partnership Authority, local authority, they provide funding in form of vouchers during school holidays. So will the government take this opportunity to end holiday hunger and provide funding for food during the holidays?
I thank the Honourable Member for her question. Obviously, we've invested in the Holiday Activity in Food programme, which is over £200 million, investing in supporting children, offering enrichment opportunities and also good quality food during the Christmas, Easter and summer provision. That is a fantastic programme that I know members across this House welcome and is a key part of our plan to make sure that every child can succeed and thrive.
Ian Lavery.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I warmly welcome this fantastic news this morning. I think the Minister has mentioned that child poverty is a scourge of society, and of course it is. It's a big slight on the UK that we've got so many kids who haven't got a full belly when they go to school. So this is welcome. 6,000 children in my constituency will now benefit from this announcement this morning. However, can the Minister confirm that this is only the first step on a long road to universal free school meals for all children in the UK?
I thank my honourable friend for his question. Extensive work is ongoing on child poverty and our strategy, which we will publish later this year. We are considering all available levers to give every child the best start in life as part of that strategy, whether it's on affordable housing, the cost of energy bills or supporting more parents to work. I think that's the change that our country needs.
Ellie Chowns.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome the announcement today. It's a small step in the right direction, but what we need is a giant leap to end child poverty. And if the Minister was serious about that, he knows what he needs to do. Scrap the 2-child benefit cap. That would lift 400,000 children out of poverty. Now, the Green Party has long campaigned for universal free school meals. We know that the health, education and productivity benefits would more than pay for that policy. Benefits of £1.71 per every pound invested, according to PricewaterhouseCoopers. So will the Minister consider the moral and economic case for free school meals to be made universal? And while he's at it, will he scrap the cruel 2-child benefit cap?
As the Honourable Member would have heard earlier, I won't comment on speculation, and extensive work is underway with regards to the child poverty strategy, which will conclude later this year. I wouldn't describe this as a small step today. I think this is a historic moment, lifting 100,000 children out of poverty and making sure that more children across the country can access free school meals. And I'm delighted that so many are welcoming our announcement today.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. With 1 in 2 children in my constituency living in poverty, we now have down payment with a breakfast club funded by the government at Thomas Fairchild School, and now thousands of children benefiting from this. And I'm pleased that the Secretary of State has agreed with Henry Dimbleby, who opened the school cooks programme in Hackney, that we need to keep nutrition on the top of the list. Yeah. My honourable friend, the chair of the Select Committee, highlighted this is evidence-based policy. We know that the evidence on child poverty shows that the 2-child limit will lift most children out of poverty. Can he reassure us that he is really looking at that evidence, working with the DWP to make sure that this is just the down payment on tackling child poverty?
I thank my right honourable friend for her comments and question. As always, she comes from a very informed position on this, and it was a real pleasure to visit a school in Hackney recently to see firsthand the brilliant work of chefs in schools. That's why I'm so delighted to say that we've announced that we will be announcing further work on our school food standard work to update that guidance in due course. She mentions breakfast clubs. We've obviously tripled funding into breakfast clubs to over £30 million in the financial year, and we are making huge progress in delivering that through our early adopter scheme.
Victoria Collins.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I absolutely welcome this announcement for the government and celebrate the success of the Lib Dems, who for many years, and including the member for Twickenham, who is passionate about this, and this is indeed a step in the right direction. In my seat of Harpenden and Berkhamsted, it's often seen as an affluent area, but actually there are pockets of poverty, and charities often say that it's harder in those areas because not only are costs higher, but that deprivation is hidden. And currently the 2-child benefit cap restricts universal support to 2 children, pushing thousands of families into poverty. So do these restrictions mean that the third and any subsequent children would not have access to free school meals, or would simply being in a household which receives universal credit be sufficient to qualify?
So I can assure the member it will be for all children in that household. And more broadly, obviously, we are introducing breakfast clubs, which is a universal offer in every primary school across the country. And obviously other measures in the Children's Wellbeing Bill will cap the number of branded items on school uniform, which I think will make a real difference to the money going into parents' pockets.
Sonia Kumar.
Deputy Speaker, and I warmly welcome this statement. In Dudley, over a quarter of all children are living in poverty, so I know that the families over 6,000 children will now be eligible for free school meals in Dudley. The extra support will go a long way to ensure our children are eating healthy and nutritious meals to aid their education. Would my right honourable friend assure me that these free school meals will be low in fat, sugar and salt to also help tackle the rising childhood obesity?
If we're going to get the benefits right on free school meals, we've got to make sure that the quality of the food is nutritious for all children. As I mentioned in my statement, it's good for attendance, it's good for behaviour and good for life chances as well. I really hope she does contribute to the work that we will do in revising the school food standards.
Shaukat Adam.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Sadly, a local survey recently found that the children in Leicester are close to 20% of children in Leicester are worried about not having enough to eat. But paradoxically, there's a quarter of the population of 10 to 11-year-olds in my city are clinically obese, and close to 40% have visual signs of dental decay. So I warmly welcome this announcement, but can I ask the Minister 2 very quick questions? Why is the government waiting till September 2026 to make these changes? And can I ask the Secretary of State to give reassurances that this policy will be properly funded so schools can provide nutritious and balanced meals and not just ultra-processed food like turkey Twizzlers, which has been shown amongst many other things to reduce life expectancies?
I can assure the honourable member that this will be fully funded. More broadly, obviously, I've set out plans for a child poverty strategy to be published later this year. The key to a mission-driven government is to make sure that government departments are working together to improve life's chances for children. Delighted that we're working closely with health colleagues to make that happen.
Sean Woodcock.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm absolutely delighted at this announcement, which will see more than 2,000 extra children qualify for free school meals in my Banbury constituency. Can the Minister explain how he sees this announcement improving the educational attainment and the behaviour of children in my constituency?
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention, and I know that obviously he's a real champion for children and young people from the time I spent with him in his constituency. As he rightly says, this makes a real difference on attainment, behaviour and on attendance, and I look forward to working with him as we deliver this positive change for our country.
Ian Solemn.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I too welcome this adoption of long-standing Lib Dem policy and also the Minister's encouragement in regard to other Lib Dem policies in response to my friend, the member for Twickenham. There's been some discussion of pupil premium. This policy does seem to break the link between free school meals and the pupil premium. So could the Minister explain what safeguards will protect pupil premium to those 2.2 million pupils that are currently in receipt of that?
I thank the Honourable Member for his question. He will know that the pupil premium is additional funding to improve educational outcomes for disadvantaged pupils in state-funded schools in England. Pupil premium funding will rise to over £3 billion in 2025-6, an increase of almost 5% from 2024-25. We're reviewing how we allocate pupil premium and the national funding formula deprivation funding in the longer term, and while maintaining the overall amount we spend on tackling challenges faced by children with additional needs. We will provide more information on these matters in due course.
Dr. Lawrence Sullivan.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Will the Minister agree with me that with this announcement today, alongside the proactive Gravesham Borough Council's LIFT programme, which has reached out and helped hundreds, if not thousands, of people who need it most in Gravesham, together with the Labour government, we will lift a further 5,800 children who are eligible in Gravesham? Isn't this the great nutritious start in life that we need?
I thank my honourable friend for her question. No, she really cares about these issues, and I thank her for raising these matters today. This is obviously a significant first step in our ambitious strategy to tackle child poverty and its root causes, giving every child the best start in life, and I commend the work that she describes. I know it makes a real difference to areas like her own.
Marie Goldman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I warmly welcome this announcement today, which has obviously been a Liberal Democrat policy for a very, very long time. And it is so important to have children have proper nutrition for children so they get the best possible start in life. In response to a question from my honourable friend, the member for Hazel Grove, about funding, the member said that this will come out in due course, but that it is going to be fully funded. Now, fully funded can mean that those funds come from various different places. Will the Minister rule out those funds coming from existing school budgets, and will he also rule out placing any other financial burden onto already overstretched school budgets?
I thank the honourable member for her question. The new entitlement is fully funded, supporting schools to deliver nutritious, high-quality meals, meeting the school food standards to over 500,000 additional pupils. As I did say, we will set out further details on funding as part of the child poverty strategy published later this year.
Hi, Bedford.
Deputy Speaker, I just noticed that not one Reform MP has turned up here for an announcement that benefits so many working class kids. I first joined a governing body in 1986 in my constituency of a primary school and served 37 years. So from Thatcher to Sunak, I saw what was going on in our schools, and I never saw need like I saw under the last Conservative government. So this is a very welcome statement indeed. But even this measure and all the other measures that I understand the government are considering will not result in fewer children being in poverty in 2029 than there are now, unless we remove the two-child cap. So I want to add my voice to those who've already asked for the Minister to assure us that that is being looked at.
I thank my honourable friend for his question. We know that obviously too many life chances are scarred by poverty, and this affects children up and down our country. Levels of poverty have increased by 900,000 since 2010. It's worth saying that this is extra money for this initiative, which is above and beyond what already goes into schools. As I mentioned earlier, the child poverty will be published later this year and may conclude on the issues that he describes.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I thank the Minister very much for his statement today, and it would be churlish of anybody in this chamber not to welcome it and say well done. It just so happens that it's this Minister and this Government that have done it, so a special thanks in relation to it. I very much welcome the increase on school and read the Government release just this morning with some interest. My question is quite specific. I refer to Northern Ireland, 1 in 4 children experience relative poverty, with 1 in 5 in absolute poverty, and of these, 2/3 of them have only one single parent working. Our children in Northern Ireland need this help. I know it's not the Minister's responsibility, but can I ask the Minister a quite specific question? Will this announcement and these monies mean that the Barnett Consequential will ensure that some of the benefit can come to Northern Ireland directly? Madam Deputy Speaker, thank you.
I thank the honourable member for his question. As ever, I know that he's a real champion on these issues. He will appreciate that education is a devolved matter. Obviously, the spending review will set out further details around the Barnett Consequentials next week, and the Child Poverty Strategy is a UK document, but I know that colleagues from Northern Ireland have been feeding into that review, and as he will know, I meet regularly with my counterpart in Northern Ireland on issues of importance to the UK.
John Trickett.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and can I very much welcome, as others have, the announcement today. It's very welcome indeed, and for the thousands of families in my constituency with families with children in poverty, this is a great announcement. But I remember the Prime Minister's statement that the government needs to go farther and faster, and so I encourage him, when he goes back to his department, to make sure that that child poverty strategy is as radical as it can be and adequately resourced to. And finally, can I just ask him to return to this question of people on UC with children in poverty? Can we be sure that every single child benefits from that? Because some families lack the capacity, perhaps, for all sorts of reasons, to make the appropriate application.
I thank the honourable member for his question. We, of course, want to make sure that all families that are eligible for this rollout do benefit from it, and we want to make the process as simple as possible, working with other government departments. We are determined to bring down child poverty. We appreciate that the issues are complex. We want to get it right, and obviously we will set out more details in due course.
There are 15 colleagues remaining. If you want me to get you all in, work with me. Keep your questions short. Please, Yasmin Qureshi.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This is a really welcome news for families in Bolton South and Walkden, with up to 11,450 children now set to benefit from free school meals. I know from speaking with parents that this will make a real difference, both in easing pressure at home and helping children focus and do well in school. Will the Minister therefore agree with me that this is the kind of support families have needed for years, that it's a clear sign that this government is serious about tackling child poverty and giving every child a fair chance?
I thank honourable friend for her question. As I set out earlier, this is an intervention which is at once pro-learning but also anti-poverty, and we want to see high and rising standards in all our schools. Excellence should be for everyone. This is in complete contrast to members opposite, I don't know where they've now gone, who want to see tax breaks for some schools, for some children. The contrast has never been starker.
Paul Wall.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As someone who grew up on free school meals in Rochdale, I know what a massive difference today's announcement will make to more than 8,000 of my constituents. So one of my constituents, Laura Poppen, is a single mum who's in work and was previously ineligible for this free school meals benefit. She today sent me an email. This is exactly what I was hoping for. I'm over the moon. I want to shout from the rooftops how happy I am. Only Labour would have done this. Does he agree with me that this is exactly the kind of change that people voted for last year?
I absolutely agree with him. The difference a Labour MP and a Labour government can make, and I pay tribute to Laura for raising these issues with us. The fact is that by lobbying and hearing your views and concerns, we are delivering this positive change for our country.
Chris Webb.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I applaud the government's decision to extend free school meals for children right across the country. This initiative is a vital step in supporting families in need and will doubtlessly benefit many children across Blackpool, as the Minister will know when he joined me visiting primary schools last year. Many have called for accelerated efforts, including the Jamie Oliver Food Foundation, to ensure that every child has access to nutritious meals, irrespective of their backgrounds. Does the Minister agree with me that it's imperative that we unite in our efforts to guarantee that every child in Blackpool and across the country has the best possible start in life, with access to healthy food, quality education and opportunities for success?
I thank my honourable friend for his question. It was a real pleasure to visit primary schools in his constituency. I know that he cares deeply about tackling child poverty. That's why I'm delighted that we are taking an intervention that we are to lift over 100,000 children out of child poverty. He makes a number of points with regards to good quality nutritious food, and I hope he will work with us as we set out plans to change that in due course.
Jacob Collier.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
5,730 children in my constituency will benefit from this announcement. That is a hot meal every day, real practical support for families that are struggling with the cost of living crisis. But does the Minister agree with me that while we expect the Conservative Party to block this support that they have for many years, Reform MPs couldn't even be bothered to turn up today? They talk about supporting families, but they're nowhere to be seen when it actually matters.
I thank my honourable friend for his question. He's absolutely right. This is the stark choice that people voted for at the last election, and I'm really proud that we're getting on delivering the change that our country so desperately needs.
Lee Ingham. Speaker, I welcome this announcement today from the Government, which means in my constituency of Stafford, Eccleshall and the Villages, there's a massive 47% increase in eligibility for free school meals. The work will not be done though until all children who are eligible are able to access those free school meals. So I've written to my local council leader to ensure that they're doing everything that they can to make sure that eligibility is taken up. I know the Government is considering this as well, but does the Minister agree with me that councils need to be doing everything they can to ensure that all children eligible are able to access their free school meals?
I thank my honourable friend for her question. I know she's a real champion on these particular issues in light of her current previous interventions in this House. Making all children in households claiming universal credit eligible for free school meals makes it straightforward for parents to know whether they are eligible. We are supporting this by taking forward a programme of work, including improvements to our own systems working cross-government to make that happen.
Chris Bloor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As a Member of Parliament, I'm always delighted to come to work to talk about a policy that lifts 100,000 children out of poverty, gives 4,500 children in my constituency of Redditch and Villages the access to free school meals. But as a parent myself, I know how much of a difference this will make to the lives of parents in my constituency. And would the Minister agree with me that any policy that gives any child, wherever they're born, whatever their background, the chance to fulfil their potential is exactly what a Labour government should be doing?
I absolutely agree with my honourable friend. We want to make sure that every child, whatever their background, wherever they're from, they can succeed and thrive. And this is obviously an important step in making that happen, lifting 100,000 children out of poverty.
Ben Goldsborough.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. So up to 3,130 children in South Norfolk are going to benefit from this. 2 of my primary schools are in the forerunner programme of the 750 schools for the breakfast clubs. So, as the Minister is on such a roll in South Norfolk, can I also ask him to help me fix the 2 schools, Brook Primary and also Renningham, that are currently in porter cabins?
Very happy to meet my honourable friend about those matters further.
Lola McAvoy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In Darlington, I met a lovely mother who had recently gone back to work as a school dinner support worker. She was taking part-time, low-paid work, and her children consequently lost eligibility for free school meals, so she was worse off. I promised her that only Labour would be on the side of low-paid working families. Will you join me in saying to that lady today, promise made, promise delivered?
Absolutely right. Promise made, promise delivered. And I'm so delighted that she's been raising these issues with us and we're now getting on and delivering them.
Jessica Toll.
3 children in my Bournemouth West constituency live in poverty, and I know that going to school hungry is one of the biggest barriers to thriving not only in childhood but into adulthood. So can I welcome this statement, and will the Minister confirm that this measure, along with free breakfast clubs and cutting the cost of school uniforms, will not only benefit family finances but will improve school attainment, behaviour and learning outcomes as well?
My honourable friend's absolutely right to raise the particular issues around the benefits it will bring on attendance, on attainment and behaviour. I know that she's a real champion on these issues, and I know that she'll be really excited about making sure that this happens across her constituency as quickly as possible.
Cam Cox.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And in Colchester, this measure is going to benefit over 5,000 children, so it's wonderful news from a government that is indeed determined to tackle child poverty. Would the Minister like to make a return visit to Colchester, this time to visit not a pioneering preschool, but a pioneering primary school, Unity Primary in Greenstead, which has just opened a community kitchen, which creates an amazing food culture for local families?
Coming to Sussex World very shortly.
If my office will be happy about that, Madam Deputy Speaker, but I'm sure we can make it happen. I absolutely agree with what my honourable friend says. I want to also pay tribute to school support staff and teachers that do so much to ensure that children across our country can achieve and thrive, and they will know that this Labour government has their back.
Josh Fenton-Glynn.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In one fell swoop,
This will take 100,000 children out of poverty. In my Calder Valley constituency, 2,500 children will benefit because fighting poverty is in this party's DNA. But with over 4.5 million children left in poverty, I was going to say by the party opposite, but they've not even turned up. Can the Minister please assure me that we will not stop there and there will be meaningful change in the Child Poverty Task Force this autumn?
I can assure my honourable friend that we will publish an ambitious child poverty strategy later this year to ensure that we deliver fully funded measures that make a big difference to children's lives.
Andrew Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This announcement to extend free school meals will be hugely welcome news to the families of the 4,300 children in Northwich, Winsford and Middlewich in receipt of universal credit. There's a wealth of evidence that good nutrition at school has a significant impact on educational attainment, health and well-being and long-term earnings potential. And if we're serious about bearing down on the rising levels of child poverty, now just short of 30% in mid-Cheshire, it starts with measures like this, and I'm sure it'll be the first of many. Does he agree with me that this change in eligibility presents an opportunity at a national level to improve data sharing with local authorities so we can finally facilitate auto-enrolment and ensure that the maximum number of families benefit from this policy?
I think he's absolutely right to raise the issue of the difference that a Labour government makes and the scar of child poverty on our society. I can assure him that we are working across department to deliver what he describes.
Mark Ferguson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This change will make a difference to the lives of thousands of children in my Gateshead constituency, and may I say it would have been hugely welcomed by my grandmother, who was a Gateshead dinner lady. Would you agree with me, therefore, that with 30 hours of free childcare, a limit on the number of branded school items, free breakfast clubs are now lifting 100,000 children out of poverty? Labour is the party for children. Labour is the party for families.
Thank you for that question. And when we meant that we would be a child-centred government, that's absolutely what we're delivering. I think that's testament to the announcement we've made today.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I wholeheartedly thank the Minister for this much-needed announcement. Up to 5,600 children in Lee and Atherton will no doubt be grateful for the relief this brings their families in easing the financial pressures that many families face. So will the Minister confirm that this is just the first step in the wider strategy to tackle child poverty and that areas like Lee and Atherton will be central to that effort?
I thank my honourable friend for her question. I know one of the reasons why she's in this House is to tackle deprivation and poverty that exists across the country and in her own constituency, and I can assure her that we're determined to break down barriers to opportunity and make sure that we start to bring down the levels of child poverty in our society.
Andrew Pakes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As the proud son of a dinner lady, can I warmly welcome the Minister's statement and also pay tribute to my honourable friend at his side, the Minister of State for Employment, who is a tribune in this governing House against child poverty. With nearly one in two children in child poverty in my constituency, a stain left by the last government, this will be a welcome policy. Up to 16,000 pupils will be eligible for free school meals across Peterborough because of this policy. But this is just a start. So can I ask the Minister what more he can do to keep a razor-like focus on driving down poverty and driving up opportunities for young people in my city?
This, of course, is the latest step in our plan for change to put extra pounds in parents' pockets, a down payment on the child poverty strategy, as I mentioned earlier, building on our expansion of free breakfast clubs, our national minimum wage boost and our cap on universal credit deductions through the fair repayment rate are real measures that will make a real difference to people's lives.
Samantha Niblett.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome wholeheartedly this announcement today, not least because it means that almost 4,000 children in my constituency of South Derbyshire will be benefiting from free, healthy school meals, saving parents almost £500 a year. That's in addition to the breakfast clubs, of which we have 2 on the earlier adopter scheme. Would the Minister agree with me that as grateful as we are to the wonderful people, including the Bean Man that can be often seen in Willington and Repton and surrounding areas, collecting food for food banks, that actually this is a step towards lifting people out of poverty, so we will no longer need food banks?
I wholeheartedly agree with her. I know that she will want to feed into the child poverty strategy to make sure it's ambitious, but I can assure her that that's absolutely our intention.
I see 2 Joshes remain. Josh Dean.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Today I'm thinking of the teacher from my constituency who told me that they had to keep cereal bars in their office for children who came to school hungry. That is the legacy of the party opposite, and I'm not surprised they haven't turned up today to face the music. Research shows that people living with mental health conditions are twice as likely to be living in food-insecure households. So does the Minister agree with me that this announcement will make a huge change to our young people's mental health, and that this is exactly what people voted for when they voted Labour?
He's absolutely right to set out that mental health can be a barrier to opportunity and for every child to succeed and thrive. And he will know that we are investing in mental health support teams in every school across the country, as well as recruiting 8,500 mental health professionals, as well as introducing young future hubs in communities. I know that he will welcome those wider plans for our country and will make sure that it rolls out effectively in his own constituency.
Josh Newbury, final question.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I welcome this announcement, which will help more than 4,000 working-class children in my community of Cannock Chase? The Minister rightly emphasised that this expansion of free school meals is both pro-learning and anti-poverty, and we know that the appalling cost of living crisis which the previous government left behind means that so many children are coming into school hungry and not in the best position to learn. So will he set out what else the government is doing to tackle this poverty holding back so many children in our country?
I thank my honourable friend for his question. He will know that we are already committed to rolling out breakfast clubs in every primary school. We want to make sure there's more money in parents' pockets through our childcare entitlement rollout. And obviously more broadly, the child poverty strategy will be an ambitious strategy to improve outcomes and life chances for every young person.
That is the end of that statement, and I'm personally delighted and looking forward to hosting the Minister in my constituency after that statement at the dispatch box. I'll let the Ministers have a few moments to swap over.